Cool.
Mark, my
Yeah.
friend, thank you so very much for chatting with me on such very short notice.
Happy to do it. How are you?
I'm super fantastic, man. I'm very, very good. It's been an absolutely amazing journey to just been taking in what's been happening.
Yeah.
Um and again to come across your work and what you've done with just building your theories and everything. And
Mhm.
I'm just in a place of amazement because I truly like I've been walking with the Lord since I was a child, raised Catholic, and not really to even hear talk about religion, but just scripture, right?
Sure.
What's written in the Bible,
Sure.
um, and honoring that. And yeah, just the understanding of Jesus and how he did his thing, and then further leaning into that with the discoveries that I'm sitting in right now, my
Yeah.
floating head, if you will.
Yeah. It's a flat earth book. The late Rob Skiba, who I'm sure I'll be mentioning many times in the future. He was one of the first people to get into this and wrote created the amazing website testingtheglobe.com. And he was one of the first people that called me up in 2015 after we had talked a couple times, and he said, yeah, it's a flat earth book. He goes, I had no idea. He goes, there's only one verse that even hints at it, and that's Isaiah 40:22. He who sitteth upon the circle of the earth. And he goes, but that doesn't do anything with the Hebrew translation. He goes, it doesn't work. He goes, circle is not ball, it's not sphere, it's not globe. It's just a circle, like a dinner plate. And and then we started going into it more and more. And yeah, it is it I all the doubt that I had when I first started doing this in 2015 quickly evaporated before Christmas even happened that
Wow.
year. Mostly unsolicited, where people were just calling me up from all walks of life, pilots and engineers and air traffic controllers and anybody that was tied to transportation or doing stuff long distance.
Right.
They all said the same thing. Again, completely unsolicited. I had no idea who these people were. They go, yeah, man, it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
Here's why.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, even the couple of the documentaries that came out recently, that I put on my channel, again, subject matter experts. That's what really built it for us. It wasn't just the celebrities or anything like that. The celebrities have kind of become cannon fodder because they're easy to pick on. It's like, oh, how could you be so dumb to say that? You're in the public eye. But the
Right.
subject matter experts, those are the ones that cemented everything for us.
Yeah. The interesting thing for me was again my initial approach to this was we're a plateau floating through space.
Mm-hmm.
And then I discounted the idea and realizing that if we were to be hit by an asteroid, it would totally throw everything off kilter, right? So I
Oh
was
yeah.
looking at this from every single grasping at straws and everything else.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just, with this discovery of Noah's Ark by Mr. Ron Wyatt in the late 90s,
Yeah.
all of a sudden it brought me back to the first page of the Bible,
Right.
literally, where it's talked about that the Lord created the day, what he created each day,
Yeah.
speaking specifically about the firmament.
Yeah.
I think maybe the firmament was like maybe day 3 or 4. I don't even recall exactly,
It
but
doesn't matter. It was still chapter one. It still
exactly,
counts. Yeah.
exactly. And it's on the first page, right? So I kind of I wonder about those things, how we can get so deep into the Bible when we haven't even got past understanding the first page and
Right.
realizing that this ark that we're looking at
Yeah.
was literally preserved, encapsulated by a nearby volcano,
Yeah.
fossilized, was literally fossilized and preserved for us to literally discover and look upon and find, and then all of a sudden realize we can trace back and start connecting all these dots.
Sure.
And then I just went crazy with flat earth, and that's how I came onto your work.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. I mean, my story probably. I mean, I didn't
Please
think.
go away. Feel free. Here's the thing, and I want to, I guess, preface our conversation in saying,
Yeah.
I realized when I discovered your work how on point you were, and then I quickly went hands off because I
Oh.
wanted to just have an absolutely organic chat with you. So feel free, like
Um.
whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I mean, I was one of those. I mean, people think, oh, he was always a conspiracy guy, and oh, it was so easy for Mark to transition to this. I was like, no, 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 no. I was the worst guy ever to bring into flat Earth because one, I came from the tech world. I mean, yeah, I was, born again, evangelical Christian home, and church wasn't just a Sunday thing. You did all that stuff. But when I left the island, my very rural island, all of a sudden the world was opened up, and it was like a playground for me. It's like, what? It's religion. Get out of here. I got stuff to do. And I was in the tech world doing my thing for so long. The tech world and the science fiction world doesn't exactly line up with anything else.
No.
And but on top of that, I was a huge fan of the globe icon. I collected. I have run into no one that did what I did. I collected antique globes, not making this up, because I'm old enough to when eBay was new, and I was like looking for collectibles.
Hold on.
What?
Wait, I wanted to respectfully ask you this. What are you, an 80s baby? 70s baby?
60s.
60s. Okay.
Oh yeah.
79. So I
Oh, you're not so bad. You're about the same age as Karen, my co-host, to where your music, the music you got into was in the 90s. Mine was in the 80s. So I was, the new wave in the 90s was getting a little edgier and stuff like that.
but we
But
can still talk about the prism.
the
The prism, refracted light, the
Oh,
album cover.
oh yeah. Yeah. Well, any music lover can still talk about that. But anyway, I got into, I was into globes, and I had world maps. It was a running joke with me that if I ever suffered a blow to the head and I woke up in my house, at least I would know where I was, because I had maps everywhere. I was a huge fan of world maps, the Mercator maps, one satellite imagery. I mean, I plastered just everywhere. And then so when I got into this, honestly, it was weird. I mean, not only did all the conditioning from school sink in, but I was conditioning myself voluntarily without even knowing it. And
Right.
then to when I clicked on my very first flat Earth video in 2014, summer of 2014, I literally was embarrassed. I was flushed. I mean, I caught myself. And it was really weird because I come from the tech world. I never got married or had kids. So I'm sitting alone in a room with the drapes pulled, and something on the computer is embarrassing me.
Right.
Since when?
Right.
Ever. Everybody knows there's some stuff out there on the internet you shouldn't be clicking on.
Right.
But this shouldn't have been one of them.
Right.
And it's like, wait, why am I physically getting flushed at this?
Hmm.
And slowly but surely, I started realizing that it was because of all the conditioning in my life. Kind of like I told people, I go, the reason why people react so strongly to flat Earth is that they are taught about it subconsciously since they were 6 years old. The globe is in the classroom since you're 6 years old, and you're thinking, well, what would that do? It's like, well, think about this. Think about if you told somebody when they were like 30 that they were adopted and they had no clue, right? And because their first response would be like, get out of here, that's BS, no way, right? But the second they start to believe it, even a second, they have, because ripples go back in time, and they start reevaluating every conversation and every weird thing that happened to them since they were 6 years old. It's like, wait a minute, who are my real parents? And then it just is shock to the system.
Right.
So,
well, cognitive dissonance, right? That's the the term for it. And that's like, if Usual Suspects, Kaiser Soze starts walking normally at the end, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. That great example. I mean, people denial, the 5 stages of acceptance.
Whoa.
Has never changed. And the first one, denial, is, again, the line from the Matrix. Denial is the first, and most predictable response that human beings have for anything that's really life-changing that's out there. And I don't blame them. I was that way too. Right. To where when I finally, but I was stubborn. And I was trying to figure out how I was trying to argue for the globe and argue it, in my head over and over. And then that one weird night in 2015, when I woke up and I said, you know what? I'm now going the other way because it's easier. It's easier to prove things on the flat side, and I'll settle this once and for all, because I'm a creative problem solver. Always have been. So if I argue on that side, it'll just be easy. Then I'll do the smart thing, right? I'll make a series of videos. I'll put it online with all my contact information. That's a great thing to do.
Be transparent.
Yeah. And put
When
all
you
my,
walk with the
here's my
truth,
phone number, my real name, where I
buddy, when
live.
you walk with the truth, no weapon formed against you shall harm you.
Apparently that was the case, because I
Yeah.
honestly thought that some academic was going to call me up, and that was when I answered the phone. Would call me up and say, okay, here's where you screwed up. You forgot to
Yeah.
carry the two. You can,
Yeah.
you can blow, you can take down your YouTube channel.
E equals MC what?
Yeah. Yeah. People, but that's just it. The academics never called me. Instead, it was all these other people were contacting me.
Started.
And
And one of the things you've outlined is professionals started attesting, right?
Yeah.
And again, I've mentioned this to a couple of people. Professionals are the people that can sign passports, right?
Right.
They take an oath. They put their hand on the Bible, right?
Right.
They can't lie. Just you ask a pilot straight up, you fly
Yeah.
16,000 feet and the world looks what? And he says flat. And you're like, okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then you get Tyson Beck or whatever his face trying to explain how
Neil Tyson,
far you are. And no, thanks.
And there were also people that weren't even calling me. They were making things like, well, a lot of people don't know that, of course, the America does not have spy planes. Spies don't even exist in our country. It's just one of those things, right?
Right.
So one of our not spy plane pilots was touring around the country doing a book tour. And as SR-71 Blackbird pilot, which is now officially retired, but unofficially, why wouldn't we keep using it along with the U-2? It's a great plane, but whatever.
It works.
Anyway, he was going through a tour and saying stuff like when he was in Arizona, like around Phoenix, he could see the coast of California. And he was only at less than 80,000 feet. But then he said, oh, yeah. And if I look to my right, I could actually see the mountains all the way up to Canada. And you're like, what? And of course, your brain, you're like, what? And of course, he couldn't see the forest for the trees. Yeah. Meaning he was like, oh, yeah, look how far I can see. But if someone came to him, it's like, yeah, you shouldn't be able to see that far. He'd be like, the what now? Yeah. what are you talking about? And the curvature formula, I have seen it so many times. It's such a simple formula. Again, not ours.
Yeah,
8 inches per mile. When I say 8 inches per mile, and they look and they're going, yeah, totally with you, right there with you. I go squared, and then they go, yeah, 8th grade. I have no idea what happened in 8th grade.
Trig is not something a lot of people did well.
No, and so they don't get it because and I still have people quoting. It's like, oh, it's 8 inches per mile. I go, no, that's stairs. That's a slope. It's gotta round off. It's gotta curve off.
So okay, let's talk about that for a quick second.
Yeah,
the aspect or the idea of this, we're on a globe, and I enjoy destructing a lot of their ideas as well. The whole idea that 23.4 degrees tilt off 90, which is magnificently 66.6 degrees. It's 90 minus 23.4, not 100 minus 23.4, because there's 90 degrees in segments of a circle. Okay. Yeah. The idea of centrifugal force versus gravity and all these things. Yeah. The first question I have is, wouldn't you spin faster at the top of this globe and slower at the belly, so your actual weight would actually be different?
Well, okay. If it's a globe, right? If it's a globe, I don't even like saying the word, but if it's a globe, then you're supposedly spinning 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, whatever, but you're spinning at 0 miles an hour at the North and South Pole. Right, because it's no different than a merry-go-round, right? Merry-go-round, you can stand in the center. Everyone knows as a kid, you can just turn around in a circle. But if you're on the edge, you're going somewhere. You might even be flung off. The weird thing about that is the water. That's the part that everybody misses. So Saturn's rings, for example, right? If you believe in Saturn's rings, like this belt of rocks that are spinning around the center, not spinning at the top of the bottom, it's only spinning at the center. So that's not even liquid, supposedly, right? If you believe in Saturn, what happens with water? Well, everybody knows that water is extremely reactive to motion. I mean, you're holding a cup, you make a sharp left-hand turn, you better be ready. Every single person has spilled a beverage in their car, to learn the lesson. It's like, oh, wow, if I make a sharp turn, or get, there's a reason why cup holders, the coffee lids are sold everywhere. No one goes anywhere without a coffee lid. You can't, right? So if that's the case, then why isn't there this massive bulge of water? Why is there any dry land at all at the equator? The water should squeeze in from both sides, and there should be a big band, a big spare tire of water around the equator. And not only that, there should be bald spots on the north and south, big ones.
Yeah.
Should be, and it's like, no, it's absolutely uniform. It's like, there's not even a little bulge. I mean, you'd think that over the years it'd be like, what, shouldn't there even be, forget about 500 feet or 1,000 feet, even 100 feet bulge, shouldn't there be a coastline issue?
Yeah.
And they won't address it. They can't.
I don't want to waste a lot of time on that either, because again, it's just something that I wanted to, it's something I came across yesterday, quite honestly, and wanted to kind of explore with you and just throw it out for consumption. Now, the next thing being the idea of us being a reflection in the moon.
From the moon.
Yeah.
The continent layout.
Where are you on that?
I like it. It's look, I wake up with flat earth every day, so I don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to shooting down ideas. The last big idea that I wanted to shoot down was the temperature gun of the moon, where the moonlight is actually cold compared to the sunlight. But I was on air when that was brought up to me the first time, and I laughed at him. Like that's my co-host like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I'm going, and then of course within a month or two later, I got Rob Skiba outside pointing and clicking on things, going, dude, it's absolutely real.
So
like, what?
Okay, so this is where I want to throw the ball around with you.
Sure.
Taking the idea of the firmament, and unpacking the fact that it's stated in scripture that the sun and the moon were both placed in the firmament.
Right.
Do you, and again, I'm just going to ask really ignorant questions just so we can establish a foundation.
No such thing.
But the moon and the sun are opposites. They're always on opposite sides of the spectrum, right? They don't ever like catch up to one another.
Well, we're dealing... no, actually they do. They do.
Okay.
Eventually. It takes a number of days, but eventually it does. The eclipse, you'll get it both sides. You get lunar and solar eclipses, but it does take a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question that I started meandering and thinking about was, if the moon is a reflection of the firmament,
right?
Or no, sorry,
or at the very least,
the reflection. No, what I want to say is the flat plateau is a reflection in the moon.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Known and unknown. The dark sections of the moon are land. The light sections are water. Right. And again, it's a reflection. So we have to flip it. Right. Sure. We always see the same image facing back at us.
Right.
Right.
Right. The exact same image.
Isn't it?
Yes.
It never changes.
It is one of the anomalies, one of those weird things that science just says it's just a weird coincidence that the moon, for whatever reason, is locked into rotation to where doesn't even go a quarter degree out of sync ever.
It just,
hundreds of years go by.
And that's my thing. It's almost like a hand is literally polishing it, right? Opening it and closing it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Right? When we go with the waxing and the waning of the moon.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. My question to you, my friend, what if we're dealing with two items, being the sun and the moon, that are actually reflected images of one main item?
Possibly. That's pretty out of the box.
I can't see your face.
What do you mean? Oh,
I've lost you.
What in the world?
You've ghosted on me.
That is so weird, because I am not wearing green.
Maybe I'm speaking.
Hang on.
I'm speaking the truth.
Let me kill the video and put it back.
No, don't.
1 second.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
If that ever happens, let me know. That is weird. I've never seen that happen. As we're talking about weird reflections,
right? Your face just goes black.
Yeah, that's so weird. It's possible. I mean, we do. I'll be perfectly blunt with you. There's a lot about the sky we do not know. We just don't know exactly how the optics work. People have asked me, like, what's the weakest arguments in the flat earth model? What's the biggest thing science can throw at you? And most of the time I say it, I'm really surprised I mean, out of all the things I've done, it's hardly ever brought up, and that is the 24-hour Antarctic sun, for example, which is if the sun is traveling on like a needle on a record player, you can't have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. I know there's some people that say, well, there isn't 24-hour Antarctic sun. And, there's weird missing clips of video, but there's other people I have talked to, personal people that I have no doubt to trust them, saying, hey, there is Antarctic sun. But I don't really care, because the optics, that whatever's happening up there, we don't know. I mean, like for example, the firmament height, we stay approximately, say, 3,000 miles. I'm not going to convert it to kilometers or anything. And then the sun and the moon are less than 50 miles wide. Are they 3D or 2D in nature? Are they just projections on the ceiling? We don't know. I mean, I've had some people say, is it possible that they are generated like no different than if you take a magnifying glass to sunlight and you project a beam over there, that beam, that point of light is as bright as the sun in some cases, and it's tough to look at.
So here's the thing with that.
Yeah.
And I love that example, because sorry about my phone.
That's all right. It's all right. Social media, it's okay.
What if the sun is simply an igniter of environmental gases?
Could be.
Right. And for an example, you go to the beach, you get a tan, the sun ignites, creates the light ray, if you will.
Sure.
And you're filtered, or you're hammered with those effects. That is the thing that got me cranking on the idea, like Polaris, the location above the Antarctic, because that spot never changes. Right. Like that spot, everything turns around that.
Right.
And the idea again of the firmament. Now, where are you in terms of, like, if that were to, well, I guess I can't really ask you that question, because
what?
Well, if that plateau in the moon
right
was entirely as such, right, there's a hell of a lot of land that hasn't been discovered yet, which would make a lot of sense with respects to the treaties and all those things that have been signed about places we can't go, and all those warships that.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, especially with a civilization like ours, and this goes all the way back to the science fiction movies of the 50s, the original The Day the Earth Stood Still. If people forget the plot is that we were too dangerous to be let out of our cage. And they're like, yeah, you're not exploring. This is your extent of your exploration. You're not going further. You guys are far too savage. You're into colonization. So is it possible that there are tons and tons more continents out there? Yeah, I have no doubt. Right. Absolutely no doubt. I mean, do I believe everything in the Iron Republic story? Maybe, but I mean, I think it's perfectly feasible. Sure, why not? That there's other continents out there. That the only question is there other domes on top of them, and can they travel freely between worlds? There seems to be rules here. There's rules and protocols which we are not subject to, but other groups are. The old argument, which is, well, why isn't a big golden spaceship landed in the middle of Indiana and started coming out and signing autographs and taking selfies?
Right.
And it's like, well, the prime directive, which we came up with on our own, seems to make sense, which is, if you the potential of influencing society just from showing up on Main Street one day would be so huge that you would change the course potentially of history.
Yeah.
So there are rules. You can pick up some people in a boat, or, some camping people. You can do that every once in a while, but don't get caught on camera. You know what I mean? Don't get killed, which is weird, because there's stories going back to the mid 1800s about airships, huge sightings of previous civilization ships flying around. But as camera technology evolved, I've got a theory behind that, that I think that as camera technology got better, the farther away they had to go, and the less they could interact. It's like, it's one thing, you want to show up in the middle of the 1800s when there's no cameras, fine, you can do some of those things. I mean, the biggest, the most amazing sighting ever, interaction, was the 1561 Nuremberg event. Look that up if you get a chance.
Will do.
absolutely mind-boggling. Perfectly clear day, 3 different factions, spent better part of an hour above the city just doing all sorts of weird stuff. But they came out with sketch artists, but imagine if you had photographers there. Well, that's it, because everyone is really big into, I don't want to drag this out, into what they can see for themselves, what they can find out for themselves, which is why, by the way, the flat earth community has done as well as it has,
Right.
because even though nobody owns their own Jetsons space car, everyone, has found out their own. I didn't never suggested run down to the beach with a camera and start shooting long distance. I had no idea. And then people start calling me up. It's like, look what I see. I'm getting all these photographs sent to me. I'm going, what the hell are those? And it's like, well, water lays perfectly level. I go,
Yep.
oh, hey,
the canals that were laid dead straight. 100 miles, I think they run for.
It's like, look at this lighthouse, look at this boat, look at this stuff. And that's when I came up with the idea, which was, the thing that changed was HD technology.
Right.
Cameras, even 25 years ago, wouldn't have been able to help you. But a camera now that you can buy off the shelf for a couple $100, you can show an awful lot of stuff. You can beat down mainstream media. I mean, National Geographic, when we were doing photographs at movies at 10 miles, 9 miles across a California Salt Lake, and they would not use it in their program because they realized that the damning evidence it was.
Right.
So they just scrapped that whole segment. It's like, yep, never happened. It's like, what are you talking about? We live streamed it.
Click. So, okay, so Jesus.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the story?
Which,
right? In terms of him passing,
growing up born again, I am somewhat aware of.
Okay, so the reason I bring up Jesus right now is getting down to the looking at, again, scripture, Noah's Ark, right? The edification of this thing in Genesis. The year 2022,
right?
7 years removed from the year 2029.
Okay.
There's the idea that we're 2,000 years past Jesus's death. And like literally to the number, right? And this is why I again, I'm not talking about religion. I'm really just here to kind of put some additional things on the board because of where we are. 2022 is marked according to the Torah, I believe, Hebrew, as a Shemitah year.
Okay.
I find it interesting that you mentioned 2015 because that was a Shemitah year as well, right? So it's just literally 7 years, 7 years, 7 years. It's all of them cascaded out. In 1945, World War II was a Shemitah year as well. So this has been traced back all the way through. So my big, I guess, talk at this point, or the thing that I want to exemplify, or not exemplify, no, just bring to the table for discussion is everybody's waking up and realizing certain things.
Right.
And I'm really wondering if they're trying to, or if they've successfully Mandela affected the ground out from beneath us.
Wow, some big thinking there. And yes, possible. When it comes to the Mandela effect, and I like to joke, anytime I'm not going to use the joke on you. Anytime somebody says that, I go, "You mean the Mandelta effect?"
Right.
The Mandela
Bernstein
effect.
Or Bernstein, Steinstein, I don't even know.
Yeah. When it comes to stuff like that, or parallel universes or alternate timelines, do I think it's possible? Yeah. Of course, we have delved into science fiction theory. In fact,
it's got a 10-minute warning. So,
10-minute warning on the, then it cuts out?
Yeah, on the Zoom chat.
Oh, okay.
So no stress. I lost your face again, though.
Damn it. What the hell? So, you know what? It's probably because I leaned back. It's weird because this green screen should be fine, although I am using slightly different.
It's kind of trippy, though, because it's just this hat. I'm in the picture.
Do I think it's possible? Yeah, you bet. Do I think that they're doing it to try to stop us? Maybe slow us down, but I don't think they can stop it. There's a theory out there in different metaphysical circles that that one of the things they've done is when they look forward in the future, that some of the black hats out there have the ability to look in the future, and all of them seem to be coalescing into one. and there's no way out of it. They can stall it for a little bit
Yep.
and mess with the flow chart, but eventually it's going to be one
Timeline.
one ending, one timeline.
Yep.
And so
And
yeah, you can mess with
that's
it.
what I believe to be the Jubilee, the 1,000 years of peace, because we're
Ah.
literally at the end of the age of the church, right? Jesus spent the last 2,000 years saving the Gentiles,
Yeah.
right, which is us, the common folk, right?
Yeah.
And then the idea is that the Antichrist shows up in in Daniel's 70th week. That's what's prophesized.
Ah.
And then we spend they have the battle of Armageddon at the end of the 1,000 years, and that's the 7,000 years, right? The thing that I'm trying to conceptualize is dinosaurs never happened.
Okay.
Right? The moon is basically a plane. It's not a 3D object.
Sure.
Jury's still out on the sun.
Right.
So I'm thinking, do aliens really exist? Where did all this other stuff come from? Because if we're gonna go by Papa's word, Papa told us this place was built 6,000 years ago.
Sure. However, that means I'll try to condense this down.
Yeah,
that means this place was built 6,000 years ago, give or take. That day never said that there weren't any other places like this. So when it comes to, and there's no lying involved. In fact, I don't think there's any deception. It just said this place was built 6,000 years ago. Could there be other buildings out there? Sure. Why would this have to be a one-off?
Right.
So when people say, do you think that aliens do I think there's stuff flying around there? Yes, I own night vision binoculars, and you can go up and look anytime you want, and the sky is crawling with stuff.
Right.
Are they us? No. Despite what the U.S. Air Force would love to tell you, they are not us. Taking credit for other people's work, that's fine. However, are they from Mars and Jupiter and Venus? No, don't have to be. Why would they be? Do I think they're older versions of us, or versions of us that are in different places outside of here? Sure. Why wouldn't you? That, again, the prime directive. I think that when you reach a certain level of technology, you get access to certain things, but there are rules you have to follow. And one is, probably from God. It's like, don't mess with particular groups. This group is off limits. If you land and screw anything up, there will be hell to pay. So
I'm going to deal with you.
You'll have to answer to me. Again, look up the 1561 Nuremberg event. There was some weird stuff that was happening there.
Right.
So no, I think they're just older versions of us. And come on. And when it comes to civilizations, do I think the numbers were somewhat fudged? Possibly. I mean, there are older versions of civilization. Now, could they be just remnants, old remnants for decoration? I mean, there are sunken cities off of Japan and sunken cities off of India, and Bimini Road and the Bosnian pyramids and the real pyramids and stuff like, and Puma Punku and so on and so on. The remnants of stuff that used to be around. Were they previous civilizations that predate what we were doing, or are they just relics of what could have been previous civilizations added for mystery and flavor? You know what I mean? That way it's something that we can look at as like, wow, maybe there was a previous civilization, or they could have just been ruins that were created for the heck of it. Sort of like decorating the moon. Right. The moon doesn't have to be decorated with craters and all that stuff, even though the craters make no sense from a physics standpoint, that they all came in at 90-degree angles, but that's a whole nother thing for another time. Lots of things around for inspiration, signs and wonders. Technically, when we build our crude simulations, you got to remember that the early ones that we build, I come from the video game industry, there was no sun and the moon in the sky. We had to add that later. However, let there be light. Oh yeah, the early stuff we built, the sky was just lit. Was it lit by? It's not lit by anything. We just lit the sky. The sun and the moon we just added for decoration later. And in this case, in something like this, the sun and the moon, the sun was a wonderful inspirational tool, and the moon was a giant nightlight that also inspired some people, the ones that weren't sleeping. Anyway.
That's funny. I lost your face again, but we're at 4 minutes.
All right.
Mark, thank you so very much for the chat today. I truly appreciate it. just for being here. Again, I just got my little movement going on YouTube, and then having somebody like yourself come through and just to throw the ball around and
Oh
chat
yeah,
about these ideas.
happy to do it.
Really
Happy to
appreciate
do
it.
it.
What I mean, I would love to set up another interview with you if possible,
Sure.
and maybe take like, one aspect of our, again, organic conversation, because today was literally just a, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you, friendly neighbor kind of thing. But yeah, I would love to explore further with you, and we'll chat via email and figure something out.
Yeah, no, happy to do it. It seemed like a really nice guy. And again, first time I've ever. Are you wearing a green shirt? A green
Yeah,
hoodie?
yeah, I'm just wearing a green sweater.
Did you do that deliberately to see what would happen, or do you
Oh
know
no,
what was going
I do this all the time. So I usually do YouTube shares. So I'll have videos running and stuff. I'll just be down in the corner. I'm kind of just like a fly on the wall. So like somebody has, when they're watching your stuff, they have somebody to connect to, but not taking up the whole
that is a
screen.
great little tutorial for people, because they tell newscasters is the rule of newscasting: never wear, if it's a blue screen, don't wear blue, and if it's a green screen, don't wear green,
That's right.
because you will become transparent.
Disappear. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
right.
awesome.
Appreciate you so very much, man. Have an amazing evening again. Thank you for the chat, and I look forward to setting up another one with you.
All right, thanks, man.
Peace, man. Take care.
See ya.